Hi there. I'm having a virtual cuppa with Stella Gianotto, creative director and founder of the awesome Brand for Brands, brand and marketing agency, 2019's Brand Agency of the Year. And we're here to talk about marketing and branding in the age of COVID-19. Hi Stella, how's it going?
Good, good.
Yeah, is business going all right?
This is going very well for us, actually. So it's we've been doing very well. We've been inundated, I must say. So probably the other end of the spectrum of what most people are experiencing with downturns.
Yeah. Yeah. How's the isolation? So you got a beer tap behind you?
Well, that's in the office, thank God.
Yeah.
Look, the isolation is good. It's been a little bit of juggling. I've got a 3.5-year-old three-nager in the house, so that's been a little challenging at times.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in the office. But look, it's been good. It's all been an interesting exercise in integration, really. There's no such thing as balance, but
Yeah, yeah. All right. I suppose I wanted to. Obviously, you've got some fairly unique perspectives. You've got quite a diverse client base. What are you finding out in the market? What are sort of the frequently asked questions, the common themes that you're seeing, common issues that you're seeing with your customers and in your communities?
Probably the biggest question, and across the board, irrespective of the scope, the size or the scale of business, and irrespective of the industry, is people have said, okay, what do we do now? Some organisations, and this is the more established ones that have been trading for some time, have found it a little bit difficult to pivot or have found it difficult to know what to do. A lot of the smaller businesses have been a lot more agile, so they've been able to pivot and sort of pick up the dialogue of what's going on in the media and run with it. And there's been a really small percentage that have done what I called ostriched. They've just stuck their head in the sand. They've got enough in bricks and mortar to ride the wave, and they just are non-existent. So that's kind of what a lot of people have done. But the biggest question has been, what do I do now? Where do I spend what little money I have left? And by the way, when I run out, what do I then do?
Yeah. I mean, the business, I think it's a really interesting time for marketing. I mean, we're our budget's been cut for marketing, but we're probably doing more marketing now than we've done in a long time in terms of this kind of stuff, putting out information, sharing stuff that maybe previously you would have held yourselves, like sharing with other people. I mean, what sort of themes are you seeing in terms of what companies are doing out there at the moment in marketing?
Well, I think a lot of people have gone straight for anything digital. It's cost effective and most people have access to it. So a lot of people have gone really, really hard on social media. They've really upped their level of communication, doing e-newsletters and EDMs, and a lot more people are using video. That's what they've got to work with. It's readily available and it's very cost effective to literally get it out. It's a liquid asset, so you could have something up in a matter of minutes and it can be out there to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands and millions. So those people, those organizations or brands that have already started to do that in their marketing, they've actually fared pretty well. Those organisations that have a lot of traditional marketing, offline marketing, they've struggled a little bit to sort of pivot into any kind of a digital movement. They've been the slowest adopters. However, what's interesting is the reason that they've also fared well is they've supplied the one thing that we've all missed in isolation, which is human interaction and contact, something tangible. So what we're seeing is the brands, particularly our clients that are doing the best, are the ones that have got a hybrid approach. They've got some digital component and they've got an offline component as well. But what's more important is what they've done in their marketing is they've made it honest, they've made it real, and they've literally come out and said, well, we're not making sense of this either. And hey, this is what we're going through and this is how we're here to help you and this is what we're going to do. And there's a lot of examples of brands that have actually done that and they're faring very, very well.
Yeah, and I think that I found that personally the brands that I've resonated with most have been the ones that have put themselves out there as human, as vulnerable, as sort of honesty, truth. They're not sort of, I've definitely been put off brands that have been a little bit overconfident or,
they've not fared well at all. In fact, it's actually been really quite distasteful and a little tone deaf, particularly those brands that have said, hey, we're amazing and we're award winning and look at us and look at what we can do for you. And by the way, it's still a privilege, completely tone deaf. I'm surprised they actually are getting any business, because people have been completely turned off and literally just gone next in the newsfeed.
Yeah, I think everyone's suffering, and I think it is, it's a human nature to feel reassured when other people are sort of suffering with you a little bit, and
yeah, it is.
That acknowledges with.
It is very much so. I mean, we did a campaign, I think, when Scott Morrison did his press release and said, right, well, here are the lockdowns and this is the restrictions. I think within a day or two, we did an email campaign to all of our clients, zombie clients, suppliers, everyone on our database. And we literally headed it up with a story of when I visited the Taj Mahal. And the moment I saw the Taj Mahal, I was actually in tears. And we put that photograph in there. And literally the headline was, I feel your pain too. And it was literally a heartfelt email. It's probably about 200 or 300 words to say, look, we're here, pick up the phone, let's have a chat. I feel the same way too. Let's work through this. And I've got to say, for the next few days, the phone ran hot. We even reactivated a client that was 8 years lapsed. 8 years.
Wow.
Which was pretty big. So and every week we followed through with another email from a lesson I'd learned in life or a lesson that I'd learned with travels. And I had put a moral of the story together with why that's applicable in business, and that's really served us well. Because
I think that one of the most interesting things that's going to come out of marketing, particularly from COVID, is going to be that there's a lot of talk of innovation. I've never heard the word pivot as much my whole life as I have in the last 2 months.
I know we've all gone back to our P plates, haven't we? Pivot and perspective.
And obviously with that comes opportunity and
yes.
Doing things differently, and then tell people about it. And I've thought of a solution to a problem that we're all having that we didn't have 2 months ago. I need to tell people about it. And so, companies that have a very traditional way of, they've marketed a certain way for a very long time, have to suddenly start marketing differently. We launched a product. I've been doing services marketing for 20 years, and I've now look at how to market a product. I've never done that before. So it's interesting. What are the sort of, in terms of data and research, or I suppose some anecdotes of companies that have done some pretty amazing pivots marketing? What have you seen out there in the market?
Well, there's a lot of innovation happening right now. So literally the biggest opportunity that we see obviously is going to be in retail. Retail is pretty much a space that's going to be completely reinvented in Australia. And we're already seeing it. So that those organisations that can take hold of the data, understand how to interpret the data, be creative in their marketing approach, pick up the conversation of today and still give consumers and their clients a really rich, immersive brand experience, they will prevail. I mean, I wrote an article not long ago that was published that said, for Australian business, this is the Stephen Bradbury moment. The world has been flatlined, so too has the economy. Some of the big players around the world are knocked over. They'll go broke if they're not already bankrupt. Block supply chain has been affected, so there's an opportunity to go back to manufacturing. And for the first time in probably 120 years, we've got this opportunity to compete on a global scale. That's what's exciting for Australia right now. The other thing that's exciting is Australian businesses are not scared to embrace technology, and we're very, very, very early adopters. It's how we're going to use that technology to be able to give people what they want. And this is the tricky bit now. So the sentiments are that, people expected, I know that, within the Sydney CBD, they expected to be an influx of people with public transport and returning to work this week. And it was a very lackluster approach. What we have to remind ourselves is that everybody, ourselves included, we've all been affected psychologically, we've been affected physically, we've had our social liberties taken away. Everything has been uprooted, everything that's familiar. So people now are a little bit skittish to actually go out and to actually do things. But what they're still missing, and whilst we've seen a massive surge with people purchasing online, they'll continue to do that. But now we want interaction, we want connection, we want community. So those businesses that are able to offer a hybrid business model, a sort of a clicks and mortar approach where they've got a bit of both, that's where the biggest opportunity is. How businesses do that is going to be different for each industry, but that's where I see a lot more innovation, a lot more technology, and I see particularly in retail and particular customer service reps, they're really going to become brand ambassadors. You know, they're going to have to reskill themselves or upskill themselves in learning how to nurture relationships and how to, you know, seed the relationships to develop it so that there is relationship first. Pretty much how we used to do it old school before there was technology in business. So it has been a complete about face. I mean, if you read, you know, sort of some of the economic predictions coming out of the US, you know, global management firm, consulting firm McKinsey have sort of said, we're not going to see this kind of recovery. We haven't seen this kind of recovery since the golden era post-World War II. So this is a very exciting time, particularly in Australia. You know, we do get affected by movements around the world, but not as much as some countries. You know, we sort of catch a cold when the US or Europe has a flu. So I think if Australian businesses can realise this opportunity, that all of a sudden we can compete on a global scale more so than ever before, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
I like the, I love a good metaphor, and I like this is Australia's Stephen Bradbury moment.
Yes.
For anyone that doesn't know, definitely Google that. Or probably my favourite sporting moment ever is when every other competitor fell over, wasn't it? And he
That's right. And
won the gold medal.
That's right. And I mean, Aussies being Aussies said, oh, well, it was just a fluke and it was just good luck. But we forget that he trained for decades just to even get himself there.
Yeah.
And, you know, Australians, we're primed. We're well primed for disruption. I mean, look at the last 6 months. We had bushfires. We had floods. Now we have a pandemic. We're used to crisis. We're used to constant interruption in business. But yeah, I think for Australia, it's that moment. You know, global players are they're on the floor. They're on the ice. Let's go, Australia.
Yeah, I love it. That does brilliant metaphor. What so if you're a business owner, yeah, I suppose you're a business owner at the moment. You sat with that question that you've been asked: what now? What do I do now? How do I can see all these opportunities. I can see all these dangers. My money is pretty tight. What are those low hanging fruits? Those things that you'd be advising people if you do nothing else in your marketing, do these things. What are those things you'd be advising companies to do now?
Well, the biggest thing that they shouldn't do is heavily discount just to move stock or merchandise or to actually sell service, because you're going to get into a pricing war that's going to be very, very, very difficult to break the cycle of. So we're going to see that now. We're going to see that a lot.
Don't heavily discount.
Don't heavily discount. If you want the low-hanging fruit, then literally reactivate your client base. Start communicating with them, whether you do that through a social media channel or whether you do that through, electronic mediums, EDMs, or picking up the phone. There's a lot of technology to sort of do bulk sends and so forth. That's where I would be saying. I would literally be saying, look, here we are. This is what we can do. This is how we've helped you in the past. How can we help you moving forward? Another thing that is also good is to reintroduce yourselves back to your clients. Did you know we can do this? These are our new services, or this is our adjusted service level. Here's what we've got that is a free service offering, and here's, right to the other end, here's a premium offering. So that's the easiest thing that they can do. If you've got no money, it costs a little bit of time, and essentially you're nurturing a relationship. Every business owner, irrespective of size or scale, can do all of those things. And then the next tier up from that is, if you do have a little bit of money, understand where your clients are, what are they doing, and how can your service fit in, or your product or your business fit into that. Remembering too, if you're not a non-essential service right now, for the last 2 months, the world hasn't wanted to know about you. Emerging from that now, we're going to start wanting more things. We're going to be starting to do more things. We're going to be starting to want more interaction. If you can answer the question of how your business or how your product or service fits into that, and make it an everyday essential, an everyday part of life, then that's probably the right approach.
Yeah. Okay. I think the one of the interesting words, I suppose, that keeps coming up when we're looking at marketing or something. I did one a virtual couple with Giorgio Rapici, who runs a company called Giant Martial Arts, and talked a lot about community and how they've fared reasonably well. It's exactly what you said, and just reaching out to their customers, connecting with everyone, offering help. remind them that they're there for them, and building really strong communities around the business as well. So what are your
I think that's a really key thing, because building communities, those businesses, for example, those traditional businesses, they had a following, they have a community already. So they've already done well for themselves. A lot of businesses too have actually introduced things like Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups and what have you, and free webinars and free Q&As, at lunchtime or at breakfast time, just to be able to engage and interact with people. The key thing is now that they've primed everybody for that. You don't want to start taking that away, because that's essential to continuing to build the relationship in a new framework or in a new business landscape that we're about to enter.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's been an interesting few months. I mean, what in terms of, if you're a business now and you're looking at your budget, and I mean, when do you, I suppose it varies on the company, but when's the sort of best time to start marketing? Do you think it's better to wait for the things to start picking up? Is it now? Is it too late now? When would you be advising people to start reinvesting in marketing that they pulled away from?
I would always say start now. You haven't missed the boat. You might be behind on the conversation, and that's okay. But that's also a leading. Yep, we've missed the boat. We haven't been too active. We've been quiet because of X, Y, Z reasons. The reason I say start now is because as the sentiments, as we start to see more confidence entering into the market, as we start to see, people's sentiments be a lot more open and out there, you're going to remember those people that you've already built a relationship with, and you're going to start spending your money with those people that you actually trust. And right now, you're going to trust those people that have been heavily in your face, so to speak, in the last couple of months. If you've got a fly-by-nighter that's literally been quiet for the last couple of months and sort of comes in and says, pick me, buy me, buy me, you're going to be like, okay, swipe left, next. So it's never too late to start, and it doesn't hurt. I mean, what we've really got to start thinking about now is we need to think about marketing as being a conversation starter. You've met someone new, you started up a conversation with them. Essentially, we're starting all over again. We're in a new business landscape. What we knew before, market share that we had before, marketing initiatives that worked before are not going to work now. So you need to figure out, before you even go heavy-handed with any form of marketing, is what is the conversation of now? What is it that my clients and my target audience wants? And how am I going to deliver it to them that makes us an essential service or an essential product for them, so that we can continue to convert them and make them a customer for life? And they're the key things now that we need to start considering in marketing, even before you spend $1. And a lot of that is relationship building.
Yeah, I know that a lot of discussion in recruitment, as we sort of coming out of this, is that sort of change in value proposition is the value proposition we had 2 months ago. The value proposition we're taking out of this is very different. There are a lot more people on the market now, so you're going out there with the same story, the same value proposition isn't going to work, because
no.
You can still add value, but it's a different sort of value. It's different values in different areas. It's about sort of assessing, do people still need you for the same thing, or are they word it differently when you're out there?
Yeah, I mean, people still have needs. It's just that their needs have shifted, and we have social isolation to thank for that. When a social liberty is lifted and you're all of a sudden restricted, then what? So that's where psychologically the conversation has really changed for a lot of people.
Yeah. What are the, anecdotally, what are the sort of the most interesting marketing shifts or pivots you've seen out there in the world? I suppose an example from I love is, I can't remember the restaurant. It was one of those grade A restaurants in Sydney that had realised they had access to really good suppliers of quality foods who weren't selling anything. They weren't selling, so they sent out the ingredients and access to video instructions on how to cook it. You got a Spotify playlist. You could download. You can access while you're eating it. They sent you matching wines with the food. get the whole experience in your home, you know, and I thought it was a beautiful sort of pivot for a restaurant to do.
Yeah, there's two that comes to mind, and they're both, one's Australian, I think one is UK based, that's come out to Australia. So Camilla and Mark's, the fashion brand, they, whether they foresaw this or it was just opportunistic timing, if you actually log on to their website now, they've actually got virtual fitting rooms. So you can have a personal stylist who, if this was in the traditional bricks and mortar sense, would bring you the clothes and would help style the outfit for you. You can do that in real time with them now. In fact, you can actually try on an outfit and share it on social before you even add it to your shopping cart. I mean, that's absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
And yes, they've kept their stores open and they will keep the supply open as well. But the reality is they can ship to anywhere in the world. In some situations, I think they have same day or next day delivery. I mean, it's just genius. Zara is another one that has shifted quite a lot with their augmented reality in terms of being able to put your outfit together, put in your measurements, so to speak, and then have it do literally a runway walk so you can have a dry run of the outfit again before you even purchase it. Another one that's a really good one is Bar Body. Obviously, they're still running classes and so forth, but they actually offered a couple of different levels of membership. So they had a casual drop-in membership, but they also had a virtual membership as well that you can casually drop into any class. Then they had an online membership for sort of a frequent user that said, look, you can have access to any one of our classes 24/7 for a set fee each month, and you do it. It's great for someone who, you know, has to juggle kids or who's timetable changes a lot. And then they added a premium level that said, okay, well, you can't come in, but if you do need, you know, assistance with your technique in the Pilates class, or if you need assistance with your technique when you're doing bar work, you can pay this premium. You can have one-on-one access with the teacher or instructor of your choice that will help you identify, you know, the needs and offer you some corrections and so forth, all part of your membership. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Whether they'll see a return back to the studio will be interesting to see, but the fact that they've now offered that, and they've openly said, when the studio's open, we're going to continue to offer that. Now that's brilliant. And that's brilliant because what you're starting to see now is a lot of, and I'm seeing a lot of digital marketing agencies doing this, where they've set up free webinars and free chat groups and what have you. And I received an email from one just a day ago that said, yeah, we'll be closing that down in a fortnight. And it's left me thinking as a consumer, well, hang on a minute. How can you do this for free and offer guidance and build relationship over the last couple of months, and now you can't continue to do it when times are good? Shouldn't it be the other way? So that's also going to be one of the sentiments people have to deal with. But they're probably the best examples of seeing how businesses have really taken advantage of the situation and worked with what people wanted.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, isn't it? If you're setting out these expectations, you're giving out free advice, you're doing all these things for your community because you're nice. And then how do you come out of that? How do you go back to saying, right, I gave you this for free last week, now you pay for it?
Well, it's a little distrustful because, I mean, I know some marketing agencies, you know, on retainer will charge $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 a month, yet they've given you the equivalent of hundreds of dollars of consulting and advice and Q&A time each week. Now, that's going to be very distasteful for me if I was to re-engage with you as a client, because, well, hang on a minute, how can you now say that you're going back to charging that when you've offered all of this, you know, for so long? And I realize that, you know, you need to be cautious because there's a lot of tire kickers and what have you, but everyone's underestimated the value that is built in nurturing a relationship. Just because a client doesn't have money to spend now doesn't mean they won't tomorrow or in a month's time. And if you've built that relationship with them and you've got that trust, they'll buy anything from you. If you want a real world example of that, look at Gary Vee. With any medium he gets onto, you know, he doesn't sell on any social medium for, you know, he builds his following, builds and offers value, gives it away, that when he launches a new service, you know, they sell out. His products, they sell out online, and he doesn't even do an ad campaign or a pre-launch. He just goes on social and says, hey, here it is, buy it, because he's got that much loyalty and trust. So people need to not underestimate the value of that's being created. I mean, particularly Zoom, right? We all have meetings via Zoom now. How efficient is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that the trust that you're building with companies that are presenting themselves more vulnerable, more truthful, it'd be difficult to go back from that as well. I think it'll feel distasteful to suddenly being sold to again, I think.
Yeah, I think you're going to see that across the board in advertising. Advertising, I think, was heading into a very hyper reality state, where everything was so perfect. It was unreal, right? It was a hyper reality. It was so fake, but that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted. There's not going to be a place for that moving forward, not for quite some time. You know, we're going to go back to what is real. We're going to go back to something that we can actually relate with. I mean, look at a lot of the beauty campaigns, you know, salons are opening, let's get rid of ISO hair, and, you know, let's get rid of ISO nails, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we're also going to see a shift in advertising in terms of how and what we perceive to be imagery coming into this new norm, whatever the new norm is going to be.
Yeah, because I actually quite enjoy seeing stuff coming out now of people who normally would be so photoshopped or so overly perfect. You now see videos of people in their homes, they look more natural. Initially it was quite a shock, and now you know, bad quality videos of someone just looking normal. It's quite refreshing. It's nice.
It's quite refreshing. I mean, the world has given us a break from image, you know, and that's where we're going to see a lot of brands rebrand. They're either going to rough up or create some rawness in their highly polished brands, or those highly polished brands, you know, that are actually quite high end or luxurious, are going to have to offer a hell of a lot more value add in order for people to be able to even afford to buy their product. I mean, people will still buy their product, but they'll want that much more for their dollar.
Yeah. What do you, I mean, when you're having the glass of wine at the end of the day and sort of mulling things over, as we all tend to do it now, what does the world after COVID look like? What does the other side of this look to you? What do you think are the biggest negatives and the biggest positives you see coming out of this?
I suppose in a perfect utopia, and I often think in this, in a perfect world, what would I like to see? I think what we're going, and we've already started seeing it, there's a return to family. There's a return to family values. There's also a big return to community. We've all been forced to shop local and consider local. So there's going to be a huge boost on that. I think we're going to see a return to patriotism as well. We're going to see a return to manufacture in this country. We're going to see quite a lot of products being invented and innovated here. So we're going to see a lot commercialised in the next 5 to 10 years, hugely so. I mean, for those of you that don't know, Australia's invented many things. You know, we invented the Wi-Fi technology. We've invented the black box recorder. You know, we invented the clothesline. We've invented the lawnmower. The cochlear implants, these are all Australian inventions. So I think we'll see a lot of that occurring too. And also too, I think we'll see everyone will slow down a bit. The pace will just drop back. You know, we won't be so intense and so needy and what have you. We'll still have our demands, don't get me wrong. But I think the edge has just been taken off us all. So we're going to see that permeate in all walks of life. And of course, I think the biggest boom industries ahead, education. People will emerge from this not arguing about the price of education again, because so many people have had to homeschool. I think there's a massive opportunity in retail, but hybrid retail. I think we're also going to see a lot of retail space and sort of mall or shopping mall space be reworked into kind of distribution and sort of click and collect centres. And I think we're going to see a lot more innovation in how we use data and technology. And of course, manufacturing is another massive opportunity. And then it comes recruitment. Obviously, people are going to upskill and reskill. And and that's, people will tend to want to pay more for quality employees that actually do have a very good skill set. So
yeah,
that's what I sort of envisage the biggest areas.
Yeah, I think the quality of e-commerce, I think in Australia will increase. I mean, personally, I've always felt that e-commerce in Australia generally, with a few notable exceptions, but I think generally is of a lower quality historically than other places in the world, and I've always find it quite frustrating.
UK is brilliant for e-commerce.
Yeah,
oh, brilliant. I buy a lot from I shouldn't say I buy a lot from
Yeah.
UK retailers, but their online experience is great.
Yeah, the online experience in Australia has been, you know, fairly
Lackluster.
abundant. Yeah, I would say would be the word.
I've got to say.
And I think that that's going to increase. Or not the response. I mean, the quality of that is going to increase as more businesses go online, you find different avenues to sell. The competition get higher. The standards are going to have to increase.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be a big positive. Yeah, I definitely think that patriotism, I think, is on the rise is not a bad thing, but I think there's danger that tipping into nationalism, which I think is probably my biggest fear, I think, from this. But then, yeah, the
Aussies are too sceptical. I don't think we'll go that far.
yeah, and I think that the main thing that you mentioned there is family and pace of things is just, I think everyone's enjoying things being a little bit slower and a little bit nicer, you know, to spending more time, people are more connected, ironically, in isolation than we have been in ages.
I know it's interesting, and what's also interesting too is, apart from being more connected, our experiences now are more cross-generational. You know, they're cross-cultural now, because we've had to be. So I think, you know, we're going to see that emerge a lot more in our advertising as well too. So a lot more inclusion. Yes, we were starting to do it, but not really to the extent that we'll see it now. We'll see a lot more inclusion, particularly at a community level. And that's probably one of the biggest bonuses out of this that we'll see.
Yeah. Brilliant. All right, well, I think that's a really positive note to end on there. Thank you very much, Stella. Really
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having a virtual cuppa.
Cuppa. Thank you.
Love
Thanks, Simon.